I never believed I'd die that day. I was just driving home from my night shift, tired, numb, distracted. A set of headlights came at me fast. I remember a screech glass shattering and then silence. Nothingness, but not for long. The first thing I felt was weightlessness, then warmth. Like every fear, pain, and burden I had ever carried had evaporated in an instant. I wasn't in the car anymore. I wasn't even in my body. I was somewhere else, somewhere impossibly still. But the silence wasn't empty, it was alive. As I opened what felt like my spiritual eyes, I found myself standing in the middle of a vast open field. But this was no ordinary field. The grass beneath my feet shimmered like dew-lit emeralds. A soft golden breeze danced through the tall flowers and the sky above. It wasn't blue, not exactly. It pulsed with color, with light, with presence. And then I saw them. Animals. A lion walked slowly in the distance, its mane glistening with golden threads. But it wasn't hunting. It was resting beside a lamb. A wolf licked the head of a baby goat, then rolled over playfully as butterflies circled them like gentle sparks. I froze breathless. Weren't these creatures supposed to fear each other? Hunt each other? I expected danger. But all I felt was peace. No fear. No threat. Just harmony. It was like creation itself had been made whole again. I knelt and placed my hand on the head of a massive cheetah that purred beneath my palm like a house cat. My heart swelled, not just from wonder, but from something deeper, a recognition. This was Eden reborn. I heard something in the distance, a laughter carried on the wind. It wasn't human laughter, not exactly, but it stirred something deep inside me. A longing I hadn't known was there. I had lived my whole life surrounded by concrete noise deadlines, screens, always noise, always tension. And yet, in that moment, I realized how unnatural that life had been. This place, this realm, was what we were created for. Every tree bore fruit I couldn't name but somehow knew was good. The air, oh, the air was alive. I breathed in joy and exhaled every ounce of sorrow I had dragged with me for years. I didn't even realize how much I'd carried until it was gone. I took a few steps forward and the ground responded to me. The flowers bent toward me. The birds flew low and sang songs that felt like lullabies from my childhood. Every living thing welcomed me not as a visitor, but as someone who belonged. I sat by a river not of water, but of light. It shimmered with every color the human eye could never fully perceive. I reached down, let it run over my fingers, and instantly memories came. Not pain, just truth. I saw my failures, my regrets, my pride. But instead of condemnation, I felt compassion, acceptance, healing. And then I heard a voice. Not from the sky, but from within everything and everyone at once. It wasn't loud yet. It drowned out all my thoughts. It was love itself speaking directly to my soul.
My child, you were never meant to bear the weight alone. You were made for peace, for wonder, for me.
I wept, not out of sadness but relief. For the first time in my entire life, I knew what it meant to be known. Not judged, not sized up, just seen and loved. The lion approached me again. This time it sat beside me, pressed its warm body against mine. Its eyes were deep pools of knowing. As I stroked its mane, I felt connected, not just to the animal, but to all of creation. Nothing here was tainted by fear or hunger. There was no threat, only beauty coexisting in perfect rhythm. I thought about Earth, about the violence, the chaos, the walls we build between ourselves and nature. I thought about species going extinct while we debate profits. I thought about how we live under fluorescent lights and forget what stars look like. How we poison our rivers, then wonder why we're thirsty inside. And here, everything was whole again. A butterfly landed on my hand. It was blue, but not like anything I'd ever seen. Its wings shimmered like stained glass, dipped in starlight. And as it fluttered away, something inside me whispered, "You're only beginning to see." I stood slowly, the breeze catching my hair. I wasn't done. There was more. Someone was calling me forward. I didn't know then what I would see next, who I would meet, or what would be healed, but I knew this heaven was real, and it was far more than clouds and harps. It was life, the way life was always meant to be. Did that stir something in you? Have you ever felt like you didn't quite belong in this world? Like you were made for something more? If this glimpse of heaven touched your heart, I'd love to hear about it. Tell me in the comments what part stood out to you most. Or if you've ever felt like you've tasted eternity in a dream, a moment, or even a loss. Don't forget to subscribe. For the rest of this journey, what I saw next will leave you speechless. More than that, it might just change how you live now. Like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs a reminder. Heaven is real, and it's waiting. I followed the river of light, not because I knew where it led, but because it pulled me gently like a memory I couldn't quite place. With every step, the colors around me deepened. Trees gave way to crystalline arches, flowers began to sing in quiet harmony. And then I saw her.
She stood beneath a willow tree that glowed with soft golden leaves, her back to me, her long brown hair tied just like she used to wear it before the accident. My legs gave out. I fell to my knees, hands trembling. I knew that frame, that stance, that soul. "Emily," I whispered.
She turned slowly and smiled. Time didn't stop. It healed. My daughter, who had been taken from me so violently, so young, now stood before me, whole, radiant, and laughing. She ran toward me, not like the broken little girl from the hospital bed, but like a beam of joy with legs. She threw her arms around me, and I sobbed harder than I ever had on earth. Her voice, when she finally spoke, wasn't like I remembered. It was stronger, deeper somehow, like music in motion. "Daddy." "I told you I was okay," she said, burying her face in my chest. I held her like I had always wanted to in the years after she left, longer than the last hug I was ever given. We didn't need words. Our hearts had spoken for years in dreams and grief and silence, but here, now, we had all of eternity. Then gently she took my hand and said, "There's someone you've waited your whole life to meet." I followed her down the path lined with olive trees and light. It felt familiar, though I knew I'd never been there. The air itself hummed with expectancy. As we reached a wide open field, I saw a gathering. No, a feast. Dozens of people sat around long tables beneath a canopy of stars and fire. And they weren't ordinary stars. They watched us. The tables were carved from something that looked like wood but shimmered like crystal. Food I didn't recognize but somehow craved filled every plate. And laughter. There was so much laughter. "Welcome, brother," said a voice behind me. I turned, startled, and found myself face to face with a man who radiated calm strength. He wore robes like molten silver and had eyes like storm clouds full of promise. "I am Moses," he said.
Moses.
The one I'd read about since I was a child, standing right in front of me. "I've heard your story," he said, smiling. "Your journey was hard. Your loss deep. But your heart, oh, your heart was known by God."
Another figure approached. He was smaller, younger looking, but his presence commanded attention. "He's a warrior," Moses said softly, "and a poet."
David, King David, the shepherd boy who faced giants. He reached for my shoulder and said, "You fought giants too, the kind nobody saw. You kept getting up, that matters here."
Paul came next, then Ruth, then Stephen. Each of them embraced me, no fanfare, no pedestal, just as family. I saw people from every culture, every age, hugging, dancing, eating, laughing, and I realized something I had never truly understood. On earth, the kingdom of heaven was not made of rules. It was made of relationships.
Emily pulled me gently toward the head of the table. "They've been waiting for you," she whispered. "All of us have." I saw people I hadn't seen since childhood, a friend who died in high school, my grandmother still with the soft eyes and gentle hands, and even strangers, people whose names I didn't know but whose spirits somehow felt like home. Everyone here bore the same signature, joy untouched by time. And as we stood among them, I heard the voice again, so warm, so unmistakable this time, woven into every conversation, every laugh, every embrace.
In my house there are many rooms, and there is a seat for you at my table. I have known your name before you were born.
I collapsed again, not from grief, but from glory. All my life I had felt like a stranger, like I didn't belong, like something in me was too broken to be known. But here there were no masks, no shame, only identity, only belonging. This wasn't heaven because of golden streets or radiant skies. It was heaven because of who was here, and how completely known and loved I was, and how completely everyone else was too. I looked around at every smile, every story, every soul, and something in me shifted. I understood, maybe for the first time, this wasn't the end. This was the beginning. And I hadn't even seen him yet, but I felt him coming.
Emily smiled again, that same mischievous grin she had when she used to sneak cookies before dinner. "He's almost ready for you," she said.
My breath caught in my throat. "Jesus?" I asked. She nodded, "and he can't wait." Emily's hand slipped out of mine as I began to walk alone down a winding path made not of stone or dirt, but of something softer, more alive. It shimmered beneath my feet, almost singing with each step. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew who was calling me. And somehow I already trusted the destination. I passed through an orchard where the fruit glowed like little lanterns. Their scent drifted into the air, sweet healing. As I breathed it in, I could feel layers of exhaustion peeling off me. I didn't even know I was tired until I wasn't anymore. My spirit, my soul, they were awakening.
And then, there it was. Perched on a gentle hilltop, surrounded by flowering trees and golden mist, stood a house. Not a palace, not a castle, a house. But the moment I saw it, I knew it was mine. Its shape felt familiar, yet utterly new. Like it had been designed not just for me, but from me. Every window glowed with a light that pulsed in harmony with my heartbeat. Vines climbed the walls, blooming with flowers I had never seen but somehow remembered. The roof shimmered with tiles like stained glass, each one reflecting memories, hopes, even dreams I had forgotten. I stepped closer, and the door opened before I reached for it. Inside was silence, but not emptiness. There was warmth. Welcome. The air smelled like cedar honey and home. Every piece of furniture crafted with beauty and simplicity felt like it had waited just for me. A chair in the corner that matched the one my grandfather used to sit in. A painting that looked suspiciously like the one Emily once drew in crayon and taped to the fridge. And the music, not heard but felt in the walls themselves. Every heartbeat of this home whispered, "You are known." I walked through the rooms slowly, stunned. One opened to a garden with a tree that reached the sky. Another had a ceiling of stars that shifted and danced. And there in the center, a table. Just one plate, one cup, and yet I felt no loneliness, only invitation. Then from behind me came that voice again, low, rich, and full of affection, deeper than oceans.
"I prepared this place for you before you ever called my name. Every detail I designed with love."
I turned, tears already forming in my eyes. I didn't see him yet, not fully, just light, overwhelming, but gentle, like looking into the sunrise and knowing it saw you.
"You never had to earn this,
The voice continued.
only to receive it."
I dropped to my knees. My whole life I had worked for love, strained for approval, carried shame like a second skin. And here was a home built by the very one who formed my soul, asking nothing of me except to step inside and rest. This wasn't just a house. It was restoration. It was every moment I had ever longed to feel safe, gathered into walls made of mercy and windows of truth. It was shelter for the parts of me I had buried and forgotten.
The voice drew nearer.
"This home will never fade. Nothing here will rot, rust, or break. For where I dwell, life is eternal."
I reached out to touch the wall beside me, and it responded not physically but spiritually. A wave of memories washed over me. Moments from my childhood, from my darkest nights, from the times I thought God was far, and in each I saw He had been building this home. Not with wood or brick, but with presence. Every scar had shaped a wall. Every cry had planted a flower. Nothing was wasted. I stood at the open doorway looking back at the fields, the garden, the sky, and I realized something simple but profound. I belonged here. Not because I was perfect, not because I was holy, but because I was loved, and He had waited for me. I don't remember walking out of the house. It felt like the house had gently released me. The doorway faded behind me like mist curling into light, but something was stirring in the air now. Something deeper, more intimate, more urgent. I felt it before I heard anything. A sense that something inside me was about to break open. The ground beneath my feet had changed. It wasn't grass or stone, it was something like water, but solid, alive, pulsing with energy. Every step I took resonated through my bones like music, no, like memory.
And then the pain came. Not physical, not yet, but emotional, raw, unfiltered. A mirror was rising before me, though I saw no glass. I saw me. Not just my reflection, but every part of me I had buried. My anger, my addiction, my pride. The night I cursed God, the morning I wished I hadn't woken up, the year I stopped praying after Emily died. It was all there. No excuses, no masks, just truth.
I dropped to my knees, trembling. "I'm not worthy," I whispered. "I'm not ready."
And then I felt his presence again, not in judgment, but in nearness.
I never asked you to be ready, only to be real.
The voice was behind me, then beside me, then within me. It wrapped around my ribs like breath. It didn't push me to stand, it met me where I knelt, and then I felt his hand.
It touched my back first, warm, immovable, holy.
You carry wounds that were never yours to bear,
He said.
Let me take them.
And in that instant, the pain surfaced.
I didn't expect the physical part. I thought this was heaven, no more pain, right? But what I experienced was something else entirely. Like all the brokenness I had ever known, all the suffering I had suppressed was rising in one final surge to leave me. My chest burned. My spine screamed. My legs buckled. I cried out not in torment but in release. The back pain from years in the army, gone. The tremor in my hands from the accident, stilled. The scars from surgery, vanished.
The damage from depression, from stress, from shame, all melting away like ice beneath the morning sun. And more than my body, my mind was changing.
All the false identities I had lived under, failure, coward, broken father who didn't save her, were crumbling. The lies I had believed about myself, about God, dissolved. Then he spoke again, this time like thunder wrapped in velvet.
You were never your wounds. You are my son, my beloved. Rise, healed.
And I did.
I stood, straighter than I had in years. My breath was deep. My chest didn't ache. My hands were steady. My mind was clear. But more than that, I felt whole. There was a sense of unity in me I had never known. No dissonance. No battle between who I was and who I was pretending to be. I was new. I looked down at my arms, stronger, at my legs, balanced. My reflection shimmered in the air beside me, not in vanity, but in awe. I looked like me, but brighter, fuller, true. And then the tears came, this time not from grief, but from gratitude. I had spent years hiding my pain, ignoring it, covering it with busyness, bitterness, religion, rage. I had numbed it with noise. And here, in one moment of surrender, it was undone.
I lifted my face to the light, expecting silence. But the angels were singing.
Not a choir like the ones in paintings, but a million individual voices, each in perfect harmony. Not performing, but celebrating. Rejoicing not in their own glory, but in mine. Because healing here is never private. It's a cosmic event. Every soul restored becomes a new star in the tapestry of eternity.
One final whisper wrapped around my spirit like a lullaby.
Every tear you shed, I kept. Every pain you endured, I redeem. And now, my child, walk freely.
I stepped forward, unsure where I was going next, but I knew I could walk for eternity now.
Not as the man who had broken, but as the man who had been made whole. I didn't know how long I had walked. Maybe it was only moments. Maybe lifetimes. Time didn't move the same way here. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and mine freshly healed beat in rhythm with something far greater than myself.
Ahead of me, I saw a light that didn't shine. It grew. It radiated from the ground upward, alive and ancient, and at the center of it all stood a tree, know the tree, towering, timeless, rooted in eternity itself. Its trunk was wider than any redwood I had seen on earth, yet it felt intimate, as if the bark had been etched with stories, songs, and sorrows, mine included, branches arched into the sky like outstretched arms reaching both to heaven and back toward creation. And its leaves, they shimmered in waves, changing color like northern lights caught in a slow breeze. I approached slowly, reverently. My spirit knew where I was long before my mind caught up. This was the tree of life. Then I heard his voice again, quiet and near.
You were hungry long before you knew how to eat. Come and be filled.
A single fruit lowered from a branch overhead, not plucked but offered. It hovered in front of me, golden and smooth, pulsing with a kind of gentle light. It looked like no fruit I had ever seen, but somehow I already knew its taste. I reached out, and as my fingers touched it, warmth poured through me, not heat, but a kind of soul-deep recognition. This fruit wasn't just food, it was memory, healing, communion. I took a bite, and in that moment, I remembered everything. Not just my life, but the moments between moments. The prayers I had whispered in hospital waiting rooms, the screams I had never voiced after burying Emily, the times I smiled on the outside but crumbled inside, all of it gathered into this one taste. But instead of bitterness, I tasted mercy. Instead of regret, grace. My knees gave out again, but this time from awe, I could feel the fruit restoring me, not just healing what was broken, but making me into someone I had never dared to become. Whole, free, alive. The voice of the Lord returned closer now, almost playful.
Every month this tree bears new fruit, each one for a wound you thought would never heal.
I looked up and realized every branch carried fruit of a different color-shaped light. 12 kinds. One for every longing, one for every story. He continued.
This is not just sustenance, it is celebration. Every bite is a reminder you were made for life, not survival.
Tears streamed down my face, not from sadness, but from being overwhelmed by goodness. I thought about how often I'd numbed myself back on earth. Fast food, fast scrolling, fast answers, and here, one bite held the kind of nourishment that could rebuild a soul. I noticed the bark beneath me shimmered with languages I didn't recognize yet somehow understood. Names, stories, laughter. I pressed my hand to the trunk and felt them. People. Millions. All fed by this tree, all healed by it. And then I saw them coming. People from every tribe, tongue, and time. Children and elders. The broken and the joyful. Each one invited to eat. No one pushed. No one hoarded. There was no need. The tree never withered, never ran out. It gave without effort and renewed without limit. Emily appeared beside me again. She was holding a fruit of her own bright lavender with streaks of gold. This one helped me let go of the night I died, she said softly. It didn't just take away the pain, it gave me understanding. I looked into her eyes and saw a wisdom far beyond her years, and peace, the kind no earthly words could capture. I turned back to the tree and bowed my head. The Lord whispered one more thing. Eat freely, and remember, I am the life. The fruit in my hand pulsed with light once more. I took another bite, and for the first time in my existence, both earthly and eternal, I felt satisfied. Not just full, satisfied. After I tasted the fruit from the tree of life, something in me shifted again. Not like before when the healing came like a storm of mercy. This was quieter, subtler, as if a door had opened deeper inside me, one I never knew existed, and through it I heard invitation. The landscape changed slowly as I walked. The colors around me softened, pastel mists, gentle light, a hush of reverence in the air. There were no angels here, no crowds, no voices, just me and stillness. But it wasn't empty. It was expectant, waiting. And then I saw it. A small piece of land stretched before me, no bigger than a city park, but glowing at the edges with possibility. It wasn't planted yet. The soil looked untouched, though it shimmered faintly beneath the surface, alive and willing. I stepped onto it, and it welcomed me. A voice tender and steady spoke again.
Here you will plant, not because I need you to, but because you were created to create.
I looked down at my hands. The same hands that once trembled with PTSD that had dropped Emily's favorite toy the day of the crash, that had clenched in anger more times than I could count, now calm, steady, glowing with purpose. There was no instruction manual, no shovel, no seeds, just intention. I knelt and touched the soil, and the moment I did, my memories flowed into it. The morning I first held my daughter. The night I screamed into my pillow asking God if he even cared. The quiet moment of peace I had as a boy under an oak tree when I first thought maybe, just maybe, someone up there was listening. The soil responded to it all. From my hands, color bloomed. A vine of sapphire leaves began curling up from the ground. Beside it, flowers unfurled, each petal shimmering like stained glass. I didn't plant the way I once understood planting. I simply remembered felt offered, and the garden bloomed from within me. Every emotion, every experience, even the ones I'd buried under years of silence, now returned as beauty. Nothing was wasted, not even the pain. I began to laugh, not because anything was funny, but because I realized I was free. I wasn't just a guest here, I was a co-creator. A small tree grew beside me with golden bark and leaves like amber flames. Its fruit glowed with something I couldn't name, and yet I knew this tree came from the moment I had chosen to forgive someone who had never apologized. Another corner of the garden exploded with bright wildflowers, and I understood this was born from every time I had loved quietly without being noticed. A tiny stream appeared flowing through the center, its waters dancing with soft music. And I remembered the time I sang softly to Emily in the hospital, even as I felt my own faith slipping. The Lord whispered again.
In my kingdom nothing is forgotten. Even the smallest act of love is a seed that never dies.
I fell to my knees in the middle of this holy place, not out of exhaustion, but reverence. The garden wasn't mine in the earthly sense. It was a reflection of the parts of me that were eternal. Not my titles, not my income, not my failures, just the truth. And it kept growing. I stayed there for what felt like days, tending, nurturing, exploring. I walked barefoot through rows of flowers that had bloomed from my tears. I rested beneath branches that had grown from my surrender. I sat beside ponds that shimmered with joy I never thought I deserved. And all around me, life answered life. Emily appeared once more, smiling. She twirled through the garden with the ease of a child touching petals, humming. Your soul always had this in it, Daddy, she whispered. It just needed light. I watched as she planted something of her own, something small and pink and glowing. When I asked her what it was, she giggled and said, "That's from the time I forgave you." Even before you asked. My heart shattered and bloomed again. The Lord's voice surrounded me once more.
What you plant here lasts, not because of how strong you are, but because of how loved you are.
I stood in the middle of my garden, still unfinished, still expanding, and realized I would never stop planting. Not here, not even when I returned. Because the gardener in me had awakened, and creation was no longer something I admired from afar. It was something I now participated in. The garden slowly faded behind me, not because it was ending, but because something even more sacred was drawing near. I felt it before I saw anything, that same pull I had known since the moment I crossed over, only now it was stronger, closer, like gravity, but made of love. The air thickened with glory, not heavy, not frightening, but dense with presence. The colors around me grew brighter but softer at the same time. My heart began to beat faster, not out of fear, but anticipation. Every part of me knew he was coming. I walked slowly across a bridge of light that arched over a stream of flowing stars. No sound of footsteps, just breath, just awe. And then I saw him. He stood at the edge of a great open space, surrounded by what looked like living light. It moved with him, through him, around him. His robe shimmered like woven sun. His eyes, oh God, his eyes held the weight of eternity and the gentleness of a father looking at his newborn child. His face was more radiant than the morning sun, yet I could look directly into it and not turn away. I fell to my knees without even thinking. My soul could no longer stand under the weight of what I was seeing. I wanted to cry, to scream, to sing, to hide, to dance all at once, but all I could do was weep. And then he spoke.
Michael, my beloved, You came.
His voice didn't enter my ears. It entered me. Every syllable was like water in the desert, like warmth in the cold, like truth in a world of noise. It wasn't just words. It was recognition. He didn't say my name like someone reading it off a clipboard. He said it like someone who had waited his whole life to say it to me.
I couldn't speak. I tried, but every attempt was swallowed by sobs. I thought about everything I had done wrong, every moment I had failed him, every time I had doubted. And still, here he was, looking at me like I was the joy of his creation. I choked out, "I don't deserve this."
He knelt beside me and placed his hand on my shoulder. It burned with holiness but did not hurt. He whispered,
No one who comes to me ever earns this. They receive it. You said yes to me when you couldn't even say my name out loud. That was enough.
I collapsed into his arms, and he held me. The Son of God holding me like a father comforts a lost child come home. Every weight I still carried dissolved into his embrace. He pulled back gently and looked into my eyes. "You never stopped loving me," I whispered. He smiled, tears in his eyes.
Even when you ran, I ran faster. Even when you cursed, I blessed. Even when you broke, I built.
He stood and extended his hand. "Come walk with me." We walked across a meadow that shimmered with color. The skies danced above us. The wind whispered songs I'd only ever heard in dreams. And we talked, not with formality, not with fear, with closeness, honesty, joy.
I asked him things I had always wondered. Why pain? Why loss? Why silence when I begged for answers?
He answered everything, but not always with words. Sometimes he showed me. Sometimes he just looked at me and I knew. And sometimes he simply said,
I was there. I never left. I never will.
He showed me the day Emily died. I saw him in the hospital room, holding her hand when I couldn't. I saw him kneeling beside me the night I almost took my own life, weeping with me. I saw him in every coincidence, every whisper of hope I had dismissed as chance.
He had been there all along.
I asked him why he let me feel so alone. He said,
Because even when you felt alone, I was writing a story in you that required the dark to reveal my light.
I didn't fully understand it all, but I trusted him. I didn't need all the answers. I had him. We sat on a hill as golden clouds swirled beneath our feet. He laughed with me about my stubbornness, my sarcasm, my hiding behind logic and doubt. It wasn't mocking, it was intimate, like a friend who knew every page of my story and still called it beautiful.
He looked out into the light and said softly,
There is more to show you, but first I have something to give.
He reached into his robe and pulled out something small, glowing, living. It was a key, but not to a door, to my purpose.
He placed it in my hand and said,
When you return, use this. Tell them what you saw, what you felt. Tell them I'm not far. Tell them I still heal, still hold, still love.
Tears poured from my eyes as I clutched it close to my heart.
And then something shifted in the wind. I knew.
It was almost time to go back.
I looked into his eyes one last time and whispered, Will I see you again? He smiled.
You never stop seeing me when you know where to look.
He placed his hand over my heart, and everything faded into light. I opened my eyes in a hospital bed. Machines beeped. Tubes pressed into my skin. A nurse gasped, shouting something I couldn't quite hear. But I was back.
And nothing would ever be the same.
Not because I had survived, but because I had seen. Heaven isn't fantasy. It isn't mist and harps and gold for the elite. It's more real than the pain we bury, the fears we hide, or the lies we believe. It's where we came from. It's where we're meant to return. But here's what I can't forget and what I must tell you.
Heaven isn't just waiting for the holy. It's calling to the hurting.
To the addict, to the broken parent, to the quiet soul scrolling through darkness at 2 a.m., to the one who thinks they've ruined everything.
Jesus sees you.
I have prepared a place for you. You are not too far. You are not too late. Come home to me.
I saw him. I heard him. I walked with him.
And now I live for him.
Because life here, this world of chaos, noise, scrolling, violence, division, it's not the end, but it is a choice. Every breath we take is a step toward light or away from it. So ask yourself, are you ready? Are you living like eternity is real? Because I promise you, it is.
And if you're still breathing, he's still calling. If this story moves something in your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment. Tell me what spoke to you most. Subscribe so you won't miss what's coming next. Share this video. Someone you know needs hope more than they've ever admitted. Heaven is real. Jesus is waiting. And your story isn't over.